I got pictures of it twirled up.
And okay, we've it's gone live. It's gone live from Restream. I'm just waiting for Facebook. Always takes a while to kind of connect, and let's have that go live here. And I should be live in LinkedIn as well. Welcome to another virtual water live. I got Carla and Mr. Whiskey joining me before I even got into the room. And apologies for my sound quality. It looks like I've got some issues with my deck, my microphone. So I'm using a different mic on my camera, and hopefully it won't be too crazy. But Paul's in the house as well. That's great. We've got
He just came straight from the gym. Look at that. I like
straight,
it.
straight from pickleball, I guess.
No, you know what? Those arms look like they have to carry the weight of every conversation he's a part of. So maybe that's what it is. You know, he talks to so many people, over 1,000 LinkedIn connections. That's what built those arms. I'm telling you.
There you go. There you go.
He wanted to show how cut up he was today.
Paul. See, I'm wearing a wintertime sweater because it's chilly over here, and Paul's got the sleeveless going on. I mean, this really is a global, international, virtual water cooler.
I tell you, it's bright here, but it's not that warm. So
it's a bit nippy out.
It's a little bit. It's always a little bit nippy in this time of the year. So clocks go back. I need to work out. I think my clocks go back at
a couple weeks. I think, right?
Yeah,
it's coming up the first day of my cruise. The clocks go back. What a perfect timing that is! Because I told y'all when I was in the military, the clocks always went back when I was standing military midnight watch, and so I always had an extra hour of watch. But this year, I get an extra hour of a cruise. So you know what? All those years of suffering finally turned around.
They charged you extra for it. Don't worry.
I hope not.
That's funny.
You know what, Steve? Because of politics and military stuff going on, they just changed all our port calls. Like 3 weeks out, about a month out, they decide, oh, you know, all those places you were going to, we lied. We didn't lie. We just completely changed them, and very upsetting. You know, I waited 1 year for this cruise, already had booked catamarans. I was excited for where we were going, and then they were like, it's like entirely different itinerary.
Oh wow!
But it's okay. You know what? Because that is symbolic of life. Sometimes, you know, life is just going to switch up on you like that, and you have to be able to handle it with agility.
There you go.
That's right. You got to be flexible.
Referencing Mr. Adamson has been here 5 weeks.
As a shout out to Carl Adamson there.
Yeah. I've got a shout out to you, Steve, on my right here. If you can read what it says, it's very small.
Jump Rope Apprentice. Very good.
You should have put Jump Rope Sensei on yours or something like that. But
I tell you, it's been a little while. I've been playing music. So although I did jump rope this weekend, so it was good. But I got a question for the room, and we can talk about anything as we always do. But I've been doing I haven't finished it yet, but I've been doing a course that looks at supporting, and it may resonate with Carla, supporting kids with special educational needs, SEN, and in our workshops, our code coaching workshops, computing workshops, a number of them often include kids that have special educational needs. And the computing environment, or the sort of the gaming, the activities that we do, sometimes conducive for kids to really thrive in those spaces because of those needs. But it was an interesting part of the work. Part of the coursework talked about the senses and recognizing that we have 8 senses. You know, I grew up with 5, thinking that we just had the 5 ones. You know, hearing, sight, taste, touch, and smell. And then being introduced to the other 3, which are the I'm going to say the word wrong here. Proprioception, interoception, and vestibular. And it's very interesting. Vestibular, I get that one because I suffer from vertigo off and on. So I understand sort of the inner ear issues and balance. So when you hear vestibular, you think about the inner ear. So that makes sense. We have a sense of balance. And then the proprio and interoceptions are really around how we move ourselves within space, which is very interesting as well, because you see that with kids who don't have a concept of their space, or they don't have a concept of how hard they're pulling or pushing or pinching or grabbing. And then the interoception is our internal senses in terms of whether we feel hungry, whether we need to go to pee, whether, we can hear our heart racing. And so it's just interesting to cover those, expanding my mind. That's my vocabulary just grew this week. But being aware of those senses, I guess not just in kids. I mean, it shows up in that space in terms of their behavior. But I think just for all of us, understanding, whether we feel anxious, whether we have, anxiety or panic attacks, whether there's something just going on, we have a sense of foreboding or fearfulness, and just tying into more senses than just the traditional 5. But I thought I just put it out there. It's on the floor.
Are you open to learning something new about the senses that you might not know?
Yes, always.
So I came across this, I guess, on Instagram a couple years ago, and it just blew my mind. And some people were like, "Oh, this is nothing," but this blew my mind. Your tongue is like the only sense that I guess, how do I put this? If you imagine licking something, you already know what it feels like to lick it, even if you've never licked it. As long as you've touched it, like if you look at your desk and imagine licking it, you already know like what it'll taste like or what it'll feel like. A wall, a cat, whatever you're trying to lick. It could be a crocodile skin. You already know what it feels like to lick it, even if you've never touched it before. I assume that's just because your brain takes from your other senses, your sight and your touch for it. But isn't that interesting to know what it would be like to lick something that you've never licked before? Is everyone tracking what I'm saying? No, that blew my mind. Like I've never thought of it.
I'm tracking and doing it in my head while you say. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Definitely tracking it.
Like I can look at an alligator.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean it's not, I mean I guess that's why you get food that costs you $3 a plate, and then you got food that costs you $500 a plate, and a lot of it is tied into tying the senses, right? In terms of its presentation and how it
they got like mist coming off of it and glowing lights around the edges, and
or just portions so that you have the isolation of flavors, or you have textures and mouthfeel and all that stuff. But that is interesting. I mean, I'm trying to think of things that I see, and I'm thinking, I wonder what that would taste like. I've met an alligator, and I wouldn't imagine what the skin would.
Well, it would probably cut your tongue. So that's what I imagine. If you licked it abrasive, against the scales that go back, it would probably cut your tongue. Unless you have an iron tongue, Steve. I don't know.
You know what will cut your tongue quicker than an alligator skin is pineapple.
I've never licked a pineapple.
No, Carlin knows. Yeah, if you fresh pineapple, if you eat too much of that stuff, that will definitely. I don't know what it is about pineapple that does it.
It's because it's acidic. It's very acidic.
Yeah.
Are you talking about licking cut pineapple or the outside skin?
No, at the inside of the inside.
My bad. I thought you meant the outside skin. I was like,
no, the outside skin is piney, but that one.
I thought you were saying that would cut your tongue, and I was like, Steve,
yeah, it was.
When have you ever gone to just like taking a pineapple off the shelf and licked it? I'm like, you must have been really hungry, Steve. I mean,
pineapple is like my favorite.
One of those nights in London.
Yeah, I love pineapple.
Yeah, you got the Hawaii connection. I saw pineapple's popular there.
Pineapple's really good for your. It's good for your sinuses.
Yeah. Did
you
all know
naturally good for your sinuses?
Did y'all know there's pink pineapples? So Camille brought one to me the other day. It's pink on the inside. It blew my mind. I didn't know they existed, and it looks
naturally
weird. Steve,
yeah,
it looks like a piece of ham. It looks gross. I'm not gonna lie. She brought me the plate of it. I was like, what? It looked like a dead animal. I said, what is this? It was pineapple though. So that's one of
You
those
said
things where it
Camille?
looked so gross. Yes. That's my girlfriend. She was on the
Camille
Restream
Rob?
event and she's met Paul.
Oh, your girlfriend. Okay,
No.
I'm thinking about
Yeah.
Camille Rob. Okay.
No, and then she's
She
actually in
has
London
different
right
fruits and
now. She
things in
sent me a
her
picture
backyard.
of the Big Ben just a few minutes ago. But no, I forgot. Oh, in boot camp, I got introduced to yellow carrots called sunshine carrots, and I didn't know carrots were any color other than orange. And then they had Persian carrots, which
Purple.
actually looked like a radish. So I learned a lot in boot camp. Not anything about military bearing, just about vegetables. So I learned if the yogurt
So
is
you
in
can't
square
protect
cubes
us.
and solid, don't eat it. Don't eat square cubes of solid yogurt. That means it's been out there on the galley line for a long time. It's nasty.
So
Don't
you
don't
can't
eat no
protect us, but you
squares.
can teach us about health.
Exactly, and that's probably doing more for protecting y'all than me going out there. So
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
So yes, it was just I mean it ties. Pardon me. Always when these things come up. I've got a couple of people in the chat that's coming up here, Lonica. So I think I think that shows how important imagination is to our senses. Very true. Very true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's we talk about the concept of imagining something before we make it real. And we create twice. We create in our mind, and then we create in the world, if you like. So that's really interesting. And Colleen, this can go left really quick in a room full of I think she's talking about the tasting,
yeah, the licking,
especially with Mr. Whiskey in the corner there.
I kept it PG. Don't worry. But I will say,
Yes, I'm glad.
if you have a dog that keeps licking you, if you lick them back, it will throw them off guard. They'll be like, "What?"
Yeah, I'm not
I'm just
licking my
saying.
dog.
Yeah, don't do it. I don't encourage it, but I'm just saying,
Okay.
if your dog, the other alternative is you could put hot sauce on your skin, but that's not nice.
No.
Where the dog licks you, put hot sauce.
Yes, because then they won't lick there again, most likely, because they'll learn like it's just like in nature. If you eat something that's why spices exist, is to ward stuff off from eating it. And then humans were like, oh wow, nice, tasty, and they just add it to all their food now. Not me. Not me. I don't even like pepper on my food. It's too spicy. I put a little pink Himalayan sea salt, and that's it. I don't even put dressing on my salad. But some people love spices on their food. And I've been forced to eat a lot of different foods from a lot of different cultures with a lot of spices on it.
Yeah.
I love spice, Mr. Whiskey.
Yeah.
I love lots of spice.
Yeah, no, I
need a flavor. Interception. It makes you feel good on the inside, you see.
Well, this may shock people. I'm gonna teach everyone something interesting. I used to drink spicy water, and that's not a joke. What I would do is I would take these extremely hot peppers and break the seeds out of it. You put it in the water. You put as many as you want. The more, the spicier it is, and you let it sit for a while. Let the water absorb all the spices, and then later on you drink it, and it raises your internal body temperature quite significantly. And then it supposedly burns the fat near your abs. So I was doing this back when I wanted my abs to show more visibly without working out back in high school. And just if you do it, don't do it before athletics, because it raises your internal body temperature quite a bit. And then doing athletics on top of it, you will feel it. But you could also use it as a dressing. So you put it on salad, and then your salad becomes spicy. No, it's data. It's pure Instagram data. Pure Instagram data. But if you watch TV, there are people who lick their cats, either with their own tongue, or you can buy a synthetic cat tongue to groom your cat. And I've seen this online, and it blew my mind.
Bonding.
I'm trying to think what show it's on. This is gross. I've seen people. I don't want to say no judging, because I definitely am. But there are people who lick their dogs and cats on their tongue to tongue to kiss them.
Oh, no.
I've seen that on TV and social media stuff.
No,
I'm not saying anyone here. I'm just saying
my dog knew better than
media
even
so
try to kiss me on my face or on my body anywhere. Both of my dogs, well, all three, they knew better. They were trained not to do.
What is it?
They do it to other people.
Charlie Brown and Lucy,
but not to me.
Excuse me. I'm
got
suffering.
Steve
I'm
choking.
coming over a car. I'm coming over. Yeah, it's a fur ball. I have no pets, so that's all good.
Come on, Steve.
Well, you took it there. I started with a very almost semi-serious intellectual premise of
And my
expanding our
fact was a
sensory
serious
perception.
fact. You can taste stuff without licking it. That was a scientific fact. That was serious. People decided to take it down the rabbit hole. Don't lick rabbits either. But I'm just saying. No, if you want to get into education, I've had the dyslexia professor on my show recently, and another gentleman. Actually, Steve, I'm going to connect him with you, Jonathan Kemp, over in the UK. He's walking 7 months across Scotland and England, 7 months straight from place to place to do mental health talks. And I thought you two would have a brilliant conversation, just because both of y'all had a somewhat similar accent. But that being said, that learning about dyslexia is so interesting. So for those who don't know, people think dyslexia is, oh, the letters are rearranging when I'm reading or writing. That is a symptom of dyslexia. Dyslexia is actually a complication where neurons in the back of the brain don't fire properly, and there's double activity in the other part of the brain. And so I learned a lot more about dyslexia than I ever knew. And I think I've never taught in special education, but I'd assume it's the same method with dyslexia, and even parenting in general. This goes for anyone you're teaching. Keeping them in their interest is a great way to teach them. So if you have a kid who doesn't want to do math, but like you bring them comic books and you're like, we're going to calculate the force of this punch based off the height and weight and density of this brick wall and the size of the Hulk's fist. Or you have someone who doesn't like reading, but you bring them the novel versions of a Star Wars or something they like. It helps focus them, and you got to keep them inside their interest until they develop something great to branch out. And so the example he shared is one little girl with dyslexia. He had her read like the biography of Walt Disney because she loved Disney stuff, and that kept her focused, even though that book was like 500 pages, compared to she wouldn't read a children's book that is fewer pages. So it's interesting how if you get people into their interests, same with conversation, you can get them a lot more done.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, thank you for bringing it back to a sense of normalcy, Mr. Whiskey, after deviating so far. But yeah, I think that's true. We're all wired differently, and there's a desperate need to recognize that fact that we're wired differently, and even if it means more work in order to bridge the gap between where I am and where you are, the work is worthwhile, rather than me sort of assuming that you be you and I be me, and that's it. The polarizing views or the lack of effort to engage meaningfully with somebody else that is different, for whatever reason, it feels like I'm old enough to remember the times where you didn't have technologies in the way to make things easy, just to sort of say what you wanted to say and be done with it. You had to show up. You had to show up to meet somebody. You met them in a cafe or a bar, or you met them in person.
You actually had to put pants on.
You had to go home to make a phone call. You had to be at a certain place to watch a TV show.
Right.
Now all of these things come at you how you want them to, whenever you want them to, with no consequence of how you engage with them. And that translates into how we engage with people. You go to a platform and you engage with no consequence of how you do it, versus if you were to show up in their space, there's a consequence of you being late or rude or dismissive or whatever. So it's important that we take the time to do that, and especially with younger folks and people that have got challenges, because it's different. It's so easy to sort of say, oh, why can't they just sit still, not move, pay attention, whatever you want them to do, and just you've got to almost kind of rein yourself back in a bit and sort of think, well, hold on, let me come out of my space and go into theirs a little bit. And your examples are really good in terms of finding things that interest them.
I think it's all about just seeking to understand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
What'd you say? I'm sorry, Paul.
Are these?
Oh,
I had interrupted you. I said I'll wait a second.
Yeah.
no, you can go ahead. I can go after.
Okay. I said that's why I like Montessori school, the Montessori education, because they don't expect children to sit in their seats all day. They get up, they move around, they learn life skills that are practical that they can use and take on with them throughout their life. I had my daughter in Montessori school, and at first I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute," because I wasn't used to that method. But and she's 30 now, but she was learning how to use a needle and thread at 3. And at 4, they were cutting with knives. And my dad was like, I don't think that's a good idea. I said, no, she's really good. Let her cut up something at your house. And then he saw. And then she would say, Granddaddy, can I go get the picture? Myself something to drink. And he was like, no, Granddaddy will get it. And I said, no, she can do it. Because they practiced doing just basic things like that. She could hang up clothes. She could fold her own clothes neatly and put them in a drawer. I had taught her some of those skills, but they were enforced at school. I wasn't teaching a 3-year-old how to sew, but Montessori discovers their strengths and weaknesses, and then it also it holds them responsible for their actions. Like they had a clipboard, and I would say, well, let me tell my daughter what she needs to do for the week, and the teacher was like, no. She needs to make a decision on how much work she does each day, and as long as all the tasks are completed before the end of the week, she's fine. So that for me to get adjusted to it. But I really love that method of learning for children. I think it works a whole lot better, especially when I know you can't really do that in the public schools that I help make rules for as a member of the school board of education. But if they're incorporated some into the classroom, I think a lot of children would love school a whole lot more. So that's my point.
That's cool. That's cool. Agency. I hear agency in that at whatever level, appropriate level agency, where you feel like I can do this, no, mommy, let me do it type thing. And then you got the space to do it. Paul.
I feel like a lot of it too just goes back to that idea of seeking to understand versus respond, because like everybody's different. And Steve, I know you and I always talk all the time about like the question that I always ask people is like, especially when it comes to really like polarizing or difficult things where a lot of people like pop, my first question is always like, oh, it's so interesting, like I'm curious, why do you think that way, or why do you feel that way? It's kind of like a disarmor thing, and it's kind of like a check where people are like, oh, so because sometimes people are very emotional and impulsive and they just go. But the new question that I've been learning to incorporate more is like, what does that mean to you, right? Because it's like the interesting thing with the huge generational gap, because I grew up with my grandparents, they had all these slangs and phrases that I understood like very well, but I don't understand like a lot of these newer like modern things. They're always like abbreviating stuff and all this type of stuff. I'm like, what does that mean, right? So it's like I think that's a big part of that equation, is seeking to understand versus respond. That's why like when I'm in these environments, Steve, I talked to you about how my best friend is the mute button, and like I usually like stay mute majority of the time, because so often when other people are talking, like it sparks a connection or something and people just want to go. And when you have like interruptions and stuff, sometimes like people lose their train of thought and all that. And I just learned that through that you allow people to like fully finish, and then it kind of, and I guess part of it too is because I grew up with my grandparents and a lot of older people, where for me personally, like interrupting was kind of like one of my pet peeves. But then I realized that a lot of people do it not to be rude, but it's because like if they don't get it out, they're gonna like forget what they're gonna say, or like things like that. So that's where the whole seeking to understand versus respond really came in handy. And you also brought up a really good point about how there's always something, and the example that I would give is like, as we talk about all the time, like I've been playing pickleball a lot more over the past like 3 to 4 months. And when we go to like new places, there's majority of the people that we play with they've been playing for like years, and they play every day and they have like all this experience, right? And when I go play with my cousin, like she's the type, like she always wants to win. And I was kind of explaining to her that like it's kind of hard when you're playing against somebody who like is so obsessed with the sport, or they've played for like years and years and years, and they have so much like experience and like prep, and there's a lot of stuff that like we haven't even, you know, seen before. And what I was trying to tell her is that this is an area where they're like, you know, like a 10, right? Because they invest all that time, but there's probably something that if you put them in your world where like you're really good at, they have no idea what it is. So I think it's just like finding that everybody's at square one at like some point. And your whole how this all started about like special needs kids, it was really interesting because when I was going to elementary school, there were a lot of them that were kind of like incorporated in my class and stuff. And a lot of people would, you know, like bully and pick on them just because they were different. It took them a while to like process, you know, maybe their speech and stuff wasn't all that great. But what was always so interesting to me is that I could see like the areas of brilliance. They were all very, and I don't know if this is just a common thing, like I'm not going to claim to be an expert or have done research, but just going off of my like firsthand experience, pretty much everybody that I've met who has some type of special need, or they call it like special ability versus, you know, disability, they were always like artistic, and they were always gifted, whether it was like arts or like crafts and all that type of stuff. And for me, that was really cool because that wasn't an area that I had no desire to be great at. And I would always tell them like, you know, yes, maybe I'm better at like reading and writing, but man, if the competition in life or death was like drawing a picture, I was like, I wouldn't be here, and you'd be like the gold star. So I think like just being able to flip that perspective of just seeing that everybody's kind of at a different level at a different thing. And while like, so that's my share.
That's and I've said this a few times in our shows before. You know, when things come up in terms of just how resilient and perceptive and you know, we're fearfully and wonderfully made. I mean, that's in scripture, and it always resonates. And in that space, I mean, you brought up a good point there, Paul, and Mr. Whiskey, in terms of kids finding something in their space that allows their light to shine, and it may not be in the conventional way. And I think that's just tied down to how our brains work. I mean, it's like you know, if there's a deficit in one area, the brain has a wonderful mechanism, a way of sort of compensating with another sense. You know, if someone's loses their sight, then other senses come in to play in a much stronger way, not even to compensate, but just to sort of say, you're okay. You don't have sight, you're okay. The rest of us will work together, keep the rest of us healthy. I mean, that's why health is so important. I mean, holistic health is important. It's one thing trying to get, you know, washboard abs by drinking hot pepper water. But you know, if you look after yourself holistically, then I think one of the benefits of that is that you don't see any particular attributes defining you. Like you got massive biceps, you know,
like Paul.
So what? Yeah, you got like Paul. you got massive biceps, and then you drop dead at 40 with a heart attack because there wasn't a holistic approach to it. Or, you know, you got massive biceps, and use the sort of the body thing again, a body image thing again, and you don't incorporate you know, that once your biceps lose their size, you know, or you age, you think you're done for because your identity was tied into your bicep. And that's and we do that. We're all guilty of tying our identity to things, and often losing sight of the holistic value that we have, the intrinsic value that we have. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, and somebody with special abilities, or or approaches the world differently because they see it differently, they are equally fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
Not
It's
to us.
you know, Steve, that, like, what really kind of popped up for me was I'm a big like quotes person, and I remember when I went to this retreat about a year ago, one of the speakers, she shared something that was like really powerful and has always kind of stuck with me since. And she said, like, what's easy for you can be groundbreaking for someone else. And oftentimes, like, I think it's hard for people to see their gifts, which is why like mentorship and the lesson that I shared last week of like reaching up to grow, but also like reaching back to teach at the same time. It I think like what reaching back to teach does is it allows you to like see, you know, other people's gifts. And that's why like mentorship has been such a really fun thing for me, because it reminds a lot of people that everything that you've done is I look at it as kind of like everything that you've done was like practice to like prepare you for like who you are in this like whole stage of becoming. But that's what's been so interesting is that I don't think sometimes people realize like how far an act of kindness, or just like, you know, not going out of your way to, or even going out of your way, you know, to like lift somebody up versus putting them down. Because so often people have their own issues where they feel like in order to elevate themselves they need to like tear other people down type of thing. So
Yeah.
that it, to me, it just goes back to that the power of kindness. Like going back to the whole pickleball thing, it's just the examples that pop up for me. But like there's a lot of people who are like super competitive, and I understand, you know, it's a professional sport and people, you can make money and all these things. But I remember like when I first started, you know, there were a lot of people, like I didn't really know what I was doing. And I guess because I was so detached and it wasn't about the competition with other people for me, it was more of like a internal one where I was just competing with myself. But there were a lot of people who were just like, "Oh my gosh, like that was terrible," right? And all these things. And now that I've been playing a bit and I've gotten like a lot better, even when, especially when I'm playing against people who aren't that great, like I always go out of my way to say, "Hey, you know, great shot." Or if I'm playing like with a partner that hits it in the net or hits it out, I'm always just like, "Hey, you know, nice try." Like, because I don't think people realize that you don't know how far that can go. And they look at it as like that, just that one thing, but you don't know like what can be the catalyst of that interaction with people. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like one of the things that I think about when I'm interacting and communicating with people.
Yeah.
But to both of y'all's points about, you know, finding an area in which you excel, I think one of the issues with a lot of people in general of all ages and races is that they don't often get outside their comfort zone. They don't try new things. And I think with a lot of the younger generations, they're getting so pulled into social media that they're not trying new things athletically or socially. And I think that's a huge thing. You know, so many people are like, I have no special skills or abilities. I'm just a loser. And it's like, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Like sometimes you just haven't found your talent. Like I never would have gotten into writing if it wasn't for a teacher who gave me a writing prompt. And I realized like, oh, wow, I actually like this and I'm good at this. You know, sometimes it takes an outside event, but to speed up that process, you can go try new things. Like, for example, with Paul trying pickleball, if he never tried that, he would have never known that he's a, you know, they call him Pickleball Paul, you know, because he's so good. I think it's important for people to get out and try new things, and you'll realize that like maybe you just haven't found what you're good at yet. You know, so many of us want to be good at all the mainstream stuff. You know, you want to be good at writing and reading and art and stuff, and you get so envious of your peers and what they're doing. But sometimes your peers are being prepared for a different calling than you. You know, like I might try pickleball and be terrible. And I could spend my life envious of Paul and other people saying, why can't I be good at pickleball? I have no self-worth. but I might be a professional bowler for all I know. I am known to get those turkeys, 3 strikes in a row. I'm just saying.
Ooh.
But yeah. No, I don't go bowling often, but I think I really encourage everyone to try new things and in general. And you might
Yeah.
find what you're good at. It might be waiting for you, and you're just so many people are I hate bed rotting and doom scrolling, and you're not going to find your calling doing that unless you find something on social media and go and try it. So I think it's important for people to get out of the house. And as much as I hate parents who force their kids to play an instrument or do a sport, I don't believe in forcing it, but I do think it's important that parents and mentors encourage trying new things and passionately encourage in a positive and fostering parenting way to do different sports or to do different instruments. And depending on your child, you might have to sign them up against their will, but I think it's important to get them to try new things. But I think fostering it as their own idea and their own passion is very important. So like even with like I tried the weighted hula hoop, and so many people were like, oh, that's stupid, why would you do that? I was like, what do I have to lose,
Yeah.
other than maybe some people think it's stupid? It's like I tried something new. So I think it's really important. And I think to tie everything together with AI, one of the things I've talked about on my show is the conformity that we have over AI. AI allows us to make the people, quote, people in our lives how we want them to be, how we like them to be. Rather, if I go to this event or a real event, like I can't change how Steve is, how Carla is, how Paul is, right? But if y'all were all AIs, I could say, make Steve's accent heavier, make Paul talk less or more, or make, Carla smile more. Like you can conform AI to how you want it. And I think with people growing up with that, if they're not exposed to enough real world events, they're going to get to a point where they don't, like, I'm sure everyone here is of an age where you had a group project you were a part of at work or school, and you did not like some of the people you were working with. With all this AI stuff, you can make everyone you like. So I think that getting out is so important to teach proper sportsmanship, good sportsmanship, to teach learning how to get along with other people despite our differences, which right now no one wants to get along if you have any difference together in the UK, in the US, in Australia, and Ireland, everywhere. And then to just find what you're good at. That's why I always encourage new things. I've been trying all kinds of different art, whether it's 3D pens, if it's paper, pencil. I even doing this Inktober challenge. It's always important to try new things. Steve's trying new instruments. Paul's trying new sports. Carla's trying her best not to listen to me ramble. So we're all trying new things every day.
Well,
You know what?
I agree with what you're saying. I
Yeah.
do, except for one point I disagree
Okay.
on, and that's from my personal experience as someone who's taught children dance for over 35 years, and also from my mom being an educator for over 50 years. Sometimes, and my dad was a police officer, a homicide detective. With the instruments, they forced me to play. I did like it, but then with children, they don't always know what they want and need. They think they know, but they don't always know. And if my parents had let me quit every time I wanted to quit, I wouldn't have had that experience. I wouldn't have been at the orchestra last Saturday enjoying the music and just escaping from the world and just sitting in it and enjoying the moment if I had never had the experience of playing flute and bassoon. So sometimes you have to have a little force and push with children. And just like with us as adults, we pay people now to give us a little force and push by having coaches and mentors. But children definitely need for parents to guide them until they, to me, are of age where they can make their own decisions that are best for them.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion and belief.
I think because of my personal experience, if you are in a household of trauma, or you already have a really difficult relationship with your parents, it just fosters more resentment. I think if you're in a better household where you can eventually be like, oh wow, I really appreciate my parents for doing that, it's different. So I just want to put forward like a balance of like, hey, your kids are like, okay, like thank you, mom and dad, and no, they resent you and they never forgive you. And I think a lot of that is circumstantial.
There's
I think it just
and
depends
this
on the person because I used to write my mom notes and tell her she was the worst mom in the world and tape it to her door. And she was like, I can be the worst mom, but you're going to do whatever I tell you until I tell you you don't have to do it. And my dad was the same way. That's how I was brought up. And their parents brought them up the same way. Some people would say, well, it's because they didn't know. That's all they knew. But what they knew worked. And there was no one getting locked up and going to jail in my family, or the children that my mom taught with that same principle, they weren't getting into trouble and becoming juvenile delinquents or anything like that. They were productive. I teach the same way when I teach dance. So it just, I think everybody needs a little bit of everything. Some of this gentle parenting sometimes is just a little over the top. I had a cousin, for example, whose parents were more into, and he'll know I'm talking about him, but I won't say his name. They were into this gentle parenting with Dr. Spock back then. People think it's a new thing. It's not a new thing. His parents read Dr. Spock this, Dr. Spock that. My parents read the book too, but they were like, no. When Carla needs to go to bed, we're going to tell her to go to bed. It's not going to be her choice. And when we are talking as adults, she's not going to be interrupting like your kids do. So I just believe that you got to do what you got to do. I think if we had maybe more of parents speaking up and correcting kids when they were doing things that were inappropriate, that maybe all these spoiled people who feel like everybody should think their way or do whatever they think, otherwise you're wrong and I've got to protest it. I think we'd have a lot less of that and we could all get along. I don't think our government over here would be shut down if people would learn to compromise and get along. It's not all about you all the time. So that's my spill on that.
One thing I like is...
Go ahead,
Paul.
No, I was going to say, like, I can see from both sides of what you were both saying. And when I was listening to Carla share, it kind of reminds me of that, like, analogy of you may hate me now, but like as you grow up, you'll learn to like love, be grateful for all the lessons like later. And it's almost kind of like the dynamic has shifted where it's like growing up old school, there was a clear like I am not your friend type of thing, right? Like they knew that they were the adult, they were the person that was like in charge of structure and a lot of these different things. So you had kind of like a clear sense of, you know, what things look like. I always said that I was so grateful for my mom and dad because I learned kind of like what not to do. My dad was a drug addict and my mom she wasn't very ambitious as much, you know, like she was Hawaii's kind of like a very safe place, you know, and it's a lot of like how your family was. Like a lot of people tend to fall into that like systemic thing where it's like, you know, your family was this or this is, you kind of like fall in line. I was always different in the sense of everything, a lot of the stuff that I had done, I was like the trailblazer, you know, nobody in my family had like did this or did that and all that different things. So I think like to some degree, it's important to have that sense of structure, but you want to encourage people to like embrace who they are and think for themselves. Because there was a lot of things that like my mom wanted to do. It didn't matter like how academically gifted I was. I remember like when I was in school, I was winning awards and doing all this stuff, but like my mom really wanted me to be like an artist. And I make the joke, like if my life depended on my drawing ability, I would not be here. So it's like I had no desire to do that. And I remember like saying that, you know, it's almost kind of like a lot of you don't want to like live your life through your kids' eyes, almost like you want to let them like kind of grow up and be who they are and learn and make mistakes. One of my favorite things that I love was Sarah Blakely, because everybody's so fascinated by like how she got to be where she was. And she always goes back and says that it was because of my dad, and he always asked me every day, he's like, what did you fail at today? And he kind of like rephrase failure as like, you know, learning. And she's like, if you're not failing, you're not really like pushing yourself, you're not like, you know, trying to grow and get uncomfortable. And I feel like that's kind of the downside of convenience, is that it makes people comfortable. And the funny thing that a lot of people don't realize about growth is that growth only happens outside of the comfort zone. My mentor always said, like, the reason why we travel and, you know, we pick all these places and all these things is because on the way to the retreat, something's bound to go wrong. You know, whether it's like your uh, flight gets delayed, you lose your bags, like all these things. And she would always tell us, like, that is an exercise. It's a test to see like how you respond and how you react to those things, because you're getting out of your comfort zone. In that moment, I'm gonna learn who you really are versus like who you say you are. Like, I'm going to see that. And I think like that's the big part of it, you know, is a lot of people, and it's the validation thing too. The last thing that I'll share before I hand it back to you, Steve, and this is like an incredible exercise for me, but I encourage anybody to think about it. One of the greatest things that I've done personally, and I do it every day, is I love the memories tab on Facebook. I don't really like Facebook so much as a platform, but I love the feature of the memories tab because it allows me to go back every day and I can see exactly where I was, you know, 1, 5, 10 years ago. And it allows me to kind of like see and experience my growth for myself so that I don't need the validation from other people. And I think that's the big thing, is that a lot of people want that validation. Like, you want somebody to say like, oh, you know, you're good, versus like kind of like having that internal knowing. So that's what I think the big problem is that a lot of people are seeking the validation and approval versus seeing it and having that sense of like being almost for themselves.
Yeah. I just, as you share that, it brings me back to the start of the eight senses. I saw a diagram showing 8 senses, and I thought, that's wrong. There's not 8 senses. There's 5, because that was old school thinking, and then those three extra senses came up, and I thought, well, actually, you know what? There may even be sort of offshoots from those 3 additional senses, in terms of how and they're important to us. The fundamental 5 senses are usually physiological, around interpreting our environment, and then when you add balance, a balance and movement, and a sense of internal regulation, they become so much more. They make 8 senses is much richer than 5. And especially in a world whereby we can interact lacking senses. You know, we don't use all our 5 senses when we're interacting on platforms or in media, right? So we know that senses are shut down when we communicate in certain platforms. So to realize that I can be in someone's presence, and it's not just 5 senses that show up. And for me, it's really relevant because I play music and I dance. So my vestibular senses, in terms of keeping me balanced, is important. My proprioception is important, in terms of how closely I hold my partner, you know, in terms, and our dynamics of space. And then just that my interoception is just making sure that I'm okay. I'm not nervous or fearful or anxious. You know, I don't need to rush up to the bathroom every 30 seconds. So it's interesting that when you realize that there's more to us. There's always more to us. That's really relevant just for my world experience, whether I'm going to a retreat or expanding my growth, let alone my interaction with other people. And I think that's where it really kicks in. You know, if we both pick an apple, and if I get an apple and I cut it in half and I give you half, and I bite into it and I go, oh, this is really sweet, and then you go, oh, it's really acid. You know, it's really bitter, and I go,
Yeah,
well,
don't lick it.
You can lick it first.
But, you know, Steve, honestly, this makes me think, Steve, I've never told you this, but Steve,
you're telling me now?
Steve, when I'm with you, I feel 9 senses, to be honest. There's an
Ooh.
extra sense that you make me feel.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna. That's all I'll say. But everyone here might like this. To Paul's point, a gentleman yesterday, shout out Jay Bush, um, former prisoner and addict. He was on my show, and I worked together with him. He said fail just means first attempt in learning. I'm not sure if he made that up or found it somewhere else, but I thought it was cool. He said fail just means first attempt in learning. Fourth,
Nice.
fifth, sixth, seventh, or 100th. He goes, sometimes you fail more than once. But I love Paul mentioned a topic that resonates with me, which is especially in Gen Z and millennials. I've seen this more than any other generation, but I'm sure it's prevalent everywhere, which is people trying to live through their children. So my mom had a perfect gunmanship score. She said, I'm Wonder Woman and Elektra in real life. I'm going to join the Marines, be a killer. She became a killer mom instead and had 6 kids. And me and my younger sisters were all pushed into the military by my mom. At 17 years old, I was pushed. Actually, even before I was that, as a child, it was constant inundation from her. It wasn't what did I want to do. And even when the Air Force pulled the rug from underneath me, said, you're not doing photojournalism. We want you to be a cryptolinguist. And I said, no, if I'm not doing photojournalism, I'm not joining. They said, look at other jobs. When I went and looked at other jobs, my parents shaded me because I said there's so many jobs in the Air Force: pest control, construction, mailman. Like there's literally a military version of everything. And I said I don't want to be a cryptolinguist, which was learning another language and spending like 14 hours a day in a plane sometimes translating. I said I don't want to do that. And my parents said if you don't take that top job, you are disowned, as a disgrace to the family. And there was always a push for the top job, not because of the benefits or the interest, but because of their personal pride, which always upset me because my mom and dad had no friends to share. But like even me being a nuclear operator wasn't about are the benefits are good. It was my son is a nuclear operator. Like their pride and being successful through me was always so important to them for anything I did. Even like I hated the Navy because my parents had forced me into it. And then, the treatment I received in my peers, some whom killed themselves because of the conditions, and I come home and my mom's got Navy flags all over the yard, proud Navy mom, all this stuff. And I told her, I said, Mom, why are you doing this? This is like the life you're forcing me to live and you're plastering it all over. She's got pictures of me in uniform all over the house. I don't want to see that. And it was all about, well, I was almost a Marine. And it's like, okay, but you weren't. And I don't want to be. I would have rather been a Marine than a sailor, but and it's not just me. A lot of people in the military, it was our parents went to join and didn't join, or joined and then got out because of medical. And it's what they want for us to almost feel like they're in the military through our eyes. And I feel like, I don't know if anyone here has dealt with those parents. I wasn't very active in school sports, but at some of these football games, you've got the parents showing up with their varsity jacket on and they're cheering, screaming, helicoptering, and they think that they're back playing the game. Like the uncle in Napoleon Dynamite, man, I could throw that football over the mountains if they would just put me back in. It's just like that.
It's that, and there's I think there's varying degrees to that.
Oh yeah, of course. There's extreme ends.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's similar, but in the sense that I'm a parent. My mom's obviously my parent, my parent, and
shout out Mrs. Wright.
wanted, shout out to Mrs. Ellis.
See you in Jamaica in a few weeks.
Yes, I'll be there. I'll be there for Christmas. I can't wait. And it'll be 3 generations. It'll be my daughter and my mom. So
I'm writing a song for you, Steve, called "I'll Be in Jamaica for Christmas."
Say that again.
I'll be writing a song for you called "I'll Be in Jamaica for Christmas." Feel free to share it with your coach when you meet him as well. Okay. Shout out Adina Wright Designs. Yeah,
it's got them all in there. But I guess the point is that there's an element of there's a generational thing of wanting the next generation to do well, and I think that's kind of that's intrinsically built into us as a survival mechanism. If we've sheltered ourselves from harm to raise up the next generation, we want them to be in an environment that is conducive for them to do well. It's when it's that balance where it gets you know, I live vicariously through my kids, and that's not always. It's usually doesn't bode well because it's a different context. It's a totally different context, and you're not equipping them for their life. You're bringing them back into yours, and you know that doesn't feel like it's going to serve. It's going to serve the purpose that ultimately that you wanted to do, which is to grow up independent, strong, agency filled, competent people, you know, that can navigate the world, their world, on their terms. My world is my world, and I navigated my world on my terms when it was my world, but it's their world. And I can't, you know, again, the Khalil Gibran, the prophet, probably comes to mind. I can't live in my children's world, because they have different eyes and they have different contexts. All I can do is love them and prepare them as best as I know, so that they can navigate it on their terms. And if I would, you know, I invite and not insist. That's another thing we use from dance. I use from dancing.
Amen. Yeah.
Is that you invite the move in a partner dance, in salsa, for example. You don't insist the move. You don't force the lady to turn or move where, you know, because you said so, because you're the lead. That's not the way to dance. It doesn't look, you know when people are dancing where the lead is just leading and the follow is just following. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't look that way. It looks weird. It feels weird. And in life, we should, you know, it means we invite the kids. They can always come back. They always come back and ask. But yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, and the military is like a clear example of, like, let's say I was pest control in the military or a cryptolinguist, other than maybe advanced in rank up, we get the same dental benefits, the same medical benefits, the same military stuff. In fact, a pest control who's higher ranked than a cryptolinguist makes more money. That's just how the military works. So for my parents, it was like, if you're focused on having military benefits, any job I do has those. But they wanted that title. Like, my son is a cryptolinguist, and it's always been a competition to avoid, you know, just to avoid, you know. And I think maybe it was you and me, Steve, or someone else. They said, you know, parenting is like, you don't want to shoot the bow and arrow for them, but you can help them align, tell them how far to pull back and stuff, or you know, a number of analogies. And yeah, I agree. And I will be dancing in an Argentine tango dance competition soon. I got busy. I haven't taken any lessons yet. I'm going to watch some YouTube tutorials to brush up. I've never done it before. So
Help him,
Steve,
Carla. Carla.
yeah. I was going to say, I got to do Argentine tango and
Gonna
salsa.
call me. I already know.
Well, Steve, since you dance,
Salsa's
maybe
here.
you could be my lead.
Argentine tango. You can have.
Yeah, that's like a whole group thing. But last year on the Podcasters Cruise, us podcasters did well. One of our podcasting couples won that marriage show where it's like you've been married and you're sitting in chairs facing away from each other. They ask you a question and you both write down the answer. We won that show. We won a salsa competition and got a trophy. And the thing with the cruise was all the women were like, there's no men who know how to dance. None of these men know how to dance or want to lead. And so I said to myself, well, obviously this, like, I saw that and I said, by next year's cruise, I want to be able to do all these dances to even any degree, because if I'm the only guy who can dance, first of all, cool. Second of all, it makes it super easy to be in that space then. And I was like, you know what? Dance is like on the bottom of the totem pole of stuff I like to do, right? Speaking easy, you know, comedy a little more difficult, singing even more difficult. Dancing, I just really don't like to dance. I think that even speaking on stage and doing comedy on stage and singing has not helped. I have a lot more self-consciousness around dancing, but this is helping me because I guess I'm using the shield of I'm the only guy here who can dance, even if it's bad, so they can't say anything. So this is for me personally, I'm leveraging that to get into this space to eventually I get to a point where, all right, now there's a bunch of guys dancing and they're way better than me, but I have experience with it. But I also just want to win this sound egotistical. They give you a trophy with a cruise ship on it, and I really want to win that trophy. So I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and learn some salsa and some Argentine tango and go for it. And worst case scenario, if I don't win, I still, went out there, tried something new, danced with some people, and be something interesting. So,
There you
Steve,
go.
I'll book a flight to London this weekend, so you and I can get some dancing in, and I can learn. And
I love dancing. It was interesting. I picked it up because it was a way to be socially engaged moved to a new
Yeah.
town, and it was an activity that fostered social engagement. I also did amateur dramatics. There was a class in the same community center that did
well, that
not
stuff
necessarily
I've done.
acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like acting class, but it was, you did exercises where you imagined yourself, and you created scenarios, and you worked
But
with other
Steve,
people.
there's a huge difference between you and I. You already had the footwork because back in the day, you were soccer Steve. I've seen the pictures. You were soccer Steve. You were out there,
Well, that
playing soccer. So you already
that
got the footwork down.
well, and again, that ties into what you're sharing with the dyslexia and kids using things in different contexts to bring out the best in someone's circumstance. It's amazing how doing a podcast helps with showing up live like this.
Mhm.
How dancing, how being able to express yourself through some sort of theatrical device. You have to pretend that you're on an aeroplane and you're scared, or some exercises you do as a group in sort of group drama sessions helps in showing up in a social setting. And social dancing is great because it is one of those things where I remember I went to a boys' school, and so the dances were very fraught when you had a social dance, a social event where girls were there and boys were there. You'd have all the boys on one side, all the girls on the other side, and that chasm that you had to walk across before you hoped to get a
No
dance with
man's
somebody.
land.
Oh my goodness! I mean, back in my day, it was hard, and you had to go back to your friends and make up some sort of excuse as to why you didn't make it there, or what she said. What did she say to you, and that sort of stuff. And I rock up to social events now, and it's great because ladies will ask you to dance. For one, it's great to have the pressure dropped to the point where people enjoy the dance. The dance is the thing. It's no competition in terms of people sort of imagining, or implying things by you asking someone to dance. You're there for the love of music and
Right.
the love of dance. So it sets a different stage for interaction. And it's like, it's not winning or losing, it's playing the game. It's enjoying the experience and growing. You're not going to win every time, you're not going to lose every time. But you have to enjoy the interaction, and that for me is the win. So
I'm gonna record the whole thing and bring it to the next Restream event after the cruise. Don't worry, you can see me in action.
Carla would
do
love to
this.
see your footwork, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
but
Oh, yeah.
I'll say, Steve. It'll be interesting. I lost my train of thought, Steve. I was thinking about you asking people to dance and getting told no. I was like, what story would Steve make up?
She
pretty
said no.
interesting.
I
Oh,
couldn't
I
say
remember.
anything other than-
I did a whole episode on dancing, and she said, the guest Diana, she said that so many people say dance like no one's watching. She said dance to feel your body, to just be in tune with it. And so I
Rub your
need to
belly.
practice at home, just dancing and feeling my body. But there's some trauma here. See, back in 7th grade, we had Dancember. So in gym class for the whole month of December, we would dance, and everyone hated it. But I remember I was that kid, I was enthusiastic. I was like, look, the teachers are going to make us do Dancember one way or another. All we can do is enjoy it and make the most of it. Pretty optimistic of me. Well, I got a little too optimistic on the electric slide and rolled my ankle, and they took me out in a wheelchair. So I have not been dancing.
God.
Fast forward, I'd never dance again. Some slow dances here and there. Then I learned bachata with a Mexican, now ex-girlfriend, who said if you dance bachata with another woman, it's cheating. And then she danced bachata with one of her best friends. So no more bachata for me. That brings us to modern day today, where I'm trying to learn off of YouTube Argentine tango and salsa. I got to find someone in real life to teach me, but I've got
Please,
less than 10 days
you got to hold
to.
somebody.
Call me
Argentine
Alfred
tango.
Peterson.
You need to hold somebody.
Yeah,
got
well, I've got a
Carlos.
dance
Yeah.
partner right here, actually.
He can't hold me though.
Sometimes I hold her. I'm like,
Oh, she'll be a good partner to
oh,
practice
Steve.
with.
Thank you. Steve, I want to ask if Jamaica has their own dance culture. If there's like a dance particularly unique to Jamaica.
No,
Like if you
no.
lived in that country.
There's music. There's like the dancehall theme, and it's very evocative, and it's almost like you got Carnival. You know, you got the Caribbean Carnival, Trinidad, Barbados. So you'd have that sort of it's high energy samba. It's very very evocative, but it's no I don't know, there might be, I don't know of any folk style dances that come out of the Caribbean in that respect, where it's more a traditional dance, like you'd have a folk type thing. But I think today most of it's more Jamaican music. It's the reggaeton style music that then evokes the dance moves, and the dance moves aren't necessarily exclusive to Jamaica. So I wouldn't think you'd have people dancing that way all over South America, Latin America.
Steve, do you know how to twerk? Do you know what twerking is?
Yes, that was a segue into asking me.
No, I did not set that up on purpose. I could have asked that at any time. I did not need a segue for it. Trust me.
Yeah, you could have just gone out. You could have come out with that.
I want to see you whine.
Speaking of my 9 cents,
I want to see you whine to reggaeton.
That's it. Yeah, recreate dance moves. Very true.
Yeah,
I tell you. Yeah, no, I like the salsa. It's got structure. It's got form. It's got form to it, and it just looks nice. It's nice when you got that harmony, physical harmony. It's one thing. It's nice to have musical harmony when things are not discordant, but they kind of sound good together. It's nice to have harmony in taste, in terms of food pairing going well together. We like things that feel a natural connection, even if it's a surprising connection, in terms of
like
diet
pineapple
or
pizza.
food. Pineapple pizza.
Just don't lick the pineapple on the pizza.
Yes, don't lick it fresh.
Steve, I honestly, I've never heard of that, so I'm tempted to go lick pineapple because I've never heard of it cutting.
Be careful.
Go do it.
Seriously, I mean, yeah, we
Should I
used to
just take your word for it, Steve? Should I just trust you?
Yeah,
It's
you can do it. Do it.
It's more like if you eat it. It's more like as you're eating pineapple, you always have to make sure to like rinse your mouth with like water, things like that, because it's so acidic.
Well, I love me some grilled pineapple. Ooh, that's good. That's the stuff right there. But
there you go.
Steve, I forgot when I am salsaing and tangoing coming up here. I'm actually gonna have the mustache twirled up with the mustache wax by that time. So I'll I'll look good no matter what.
Yeah, I tell you that the little underbeard is
I
kicking
can bring
in
it
there
down, but I said
you're looking so much older.
I said I'm gonna bring it up because you know what? I only live. Who cares? If I don't like it, I'll just take it back down. So many people I think get caught up on their appearance so much. I'm like, I'll twirl up the mustache and we live with it for a little bit, and if I don't like it, I'll get rid of it, and then I'll have pictures to show my grandkids like, your granddaddy used to pull back in the day when he had that stash. It's all lies, but
well, the whole maturing look is coming together now. The black hat,
Well, I might get rid of the sides. I might do twirl up with goatee only, but I don't know what I want to do with the sides yet or not.
I think a thin mustache looks good on you.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, so I've been posting video clips on my social media, but because my show comes out every other day, the clips of the episodes I'm sharing are a year old, And I posted them. I was like, I look like a baby. Like I look like a 12-year. Like I understand it now. Like seeing me with the mustache and beard to not, I'm like, it's such a big difference. Um, it's taking its time, but it's getting there. I just want to look as good as Steve does with his salt and pepper, you know.
Well, you'll get there. Trust me, you'll get there.
But
Yeah.
it took you like 240 12-week years. I mean, I don't have that kind of time, Steve. I don't have that kind of time.
You have all the time. You have all the time. You have all the time you need to get to where you need to get to. Don't worry about it. Like Paul says, as long as you're growing and stretching that comfort zone, and you'll get there. But it's true. I mean,
Stretching my stash
the
out.
look, yeah, the look. I keep this pretty much. I don't have anything down the sides because it doesn't grow well. So, but yeah, kudos to you keeping that. And
I need the wax for it.
You gotta wax that. All right, Ed, we passed the hour. We passed the hour point. Closing thoughts and comments. I'll go around the house.
Ms. Hooker, you first. Ladies first.
Oh, I'm starting. We've had a great conversation today. I just everybody, since we talked about dance, ended up with dance. Dance has been the one thing that's been proven to help slow down the progression of dementia, or they're also starting to think may stop it completely. So remember that as you take your Argentine tango lessons and your salsa, Mr. Whiskey, and anybody else, just dance. Just dance. It can do nothing but improve your life.
Yes.
That's my take.
Amen to that. Amen. Paul.
Oh, this was such a fun conversation. It was so wonderful to see Carla, and Mr. Whiskey has proven again why he is so unpredictable and questionable invite to family dinner. But I want to also shout out Lonica and Colleen for all their comments and participation. I'm definitely excited to go back and read what they wrote because I could just see some of it flashing. But it's so beautiful how connection and everything just comes full circle, because before I hopped on, my contribution that I was going to bring for a topic was when I moved from Hawaii to Florida, like one of the things that my mom and I kind of started doing, it was like a thing that we would do together, is she used to like to watch Dancing with the Stars. And what was so interesting was I was watching that there was an episode last night, and in it it was a guest judge. I think he was like the director of Wicked or something. And it was a really powerful thing about how he said it's not about control, it's about surrender. And the difference of like, so often people are trying to like think and act, but then like surrender is really just about being. And I thought that was like a really powerful perspective to bring in, just like experiencing other people's journey and all that type of stuff. It was such a beautiful thing. But that was just kind of, when I think about dance, it really is kind of about surrender, right? Because you're not like, as much as you have the steps, like you're really just being in that moment. And like Mr. Whiskey said, feeling your body. And I was kind of just wondering, Steve, before we go, is kind of like a final question to both you and Carla, like what's your interpretation of that idea of, it's not really about control so much, it's about surrender, and how that, I guess, while it was explained in the dance context, how that could really kind of tie over to just like, everyday life. And I guess because it's linked in, more the professional aspect.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm gonna let Mr. Whiskey share his final thoughts and come back to your question, because I wrote that down, and that's really poignant. And also Carla's input was good.
Right. 3 things. 1, reach out to me if you want to explore dance in the Bible. I think it's really cool. Every religion has a lot of dance incorporated into it in different ways, so I think that's neat. 2, what I talked about in the podcast episode I did on dancing, check that out on a Couple Unix podcast. We talked about a lot of young people aren't growing up being encouraged to dance, really, like unless you're in specifically the dance classes or dance spaces outside of prom and the 8th grade dance. There aren't a lot of just social events either through the school or the community for dancing. And so I think what happens is a lot of people my age or older, it only gets worse as you get older. You want to do it less and less because you haven't done it, right? Typically, if you've done stuff since a young age or you start at a younger age, you're more open to doing it. So I think the issue is it's very intimidating, especially for my age group. I would say between early teens to to your 30s, where you're in that kind of dating age where you're dealing with self-consciousness, developing as a person to move into that space where you kind of are discovering yourself. And so I just think one of the things we can do as parents and mentors is foster dancing in the home, whether that's just together as a family, father, daughter, whatever it may be. Getting your kids comfortable with their bodies, like dancing to feel themselves at home and not being embarrassed to do that. And I think we lose that once our children get to the teenage age where it's like, no, we don't want to dance with the family, that's embarrassing, stop. And I think it's important to just foster that environment where people are comfortable dancing and want to do it more. I feel like we grow up and we feel like it's so limited to the people on Dancing with the Stars or America's Got Talent or UK's Got Talent, and these people who take classes and lessons. Like, I guess people feel like it's gate kept by those who have professional practice, and like definitely get that if you want to compete. But I think we need to also understand and teach that dance is it's just an activity, right? You don't have to be a professional. Just like with the pickleball space too, like you can do it just to do it. You don't have to compete. And then I want to plug a nonprofit actually, from that was on my show. Julie Barth, she has a daughter with special needs. She is in yes, you're hearing me correctly. She is 24 pounds at 24 years old because of her genetic disorders that she is dealing with. And she created Hope for Tate. That's her daughter. Tatum actually does artwork. Like Paul mentioned, a lot of them are in that artwork space. And so she sells her daughter's artwork to help fund the nonprofit, which is providing financial support and resources for women-led households in crisis. So families where the woman is taking care of a sick husband or is a single mother, helping them with especially resource navigation. So I just want to play that Hope for Tate, the number 4, and then TAYT, where you can find her daughter's artwork. It is available for purchase to support the nonprofit. I only bring that up because, like Paul said, a lot of people who are special needs or dealing with that are in that artistic space, and I think that's a great example of empowering her daughter, saying, "Look, your artwork, we're going to sell it to help fund this nonprofit." And I think that's beautiful. I think encouraging our children in both dance and artwork is super, super important to put them in those creative spaces.
That's so cool. Put a link in the comments here. We'll definitely share that and repost it. Thanks for that. This has been great. I mean, I came in with the 6 cents, with the 5 cent, the 5 senses to 8 senses moniker, and it kind of went around the house, and it's a theme and a thread that really does resonate. I do like that term, surrender not control, because that's the invite, and that's the invite without insisting. You and to Mr. Risky's point about dancing to feel yourself. Those are those senses, and Monica mentioned that we're still investigating. It may be more than 8, but even just expanding my preconception of 5 senses, with additional 5 senses exposed to those extra 3, which talk about how we function and move in ourselves and in the world, expressing through art, expressing through movement, expressing through dance. It's so important, and it has strong social repercussions. It's always been in our nature, I think, as people, to express ourselves. When we didn't have written word, we had to sing our history. When we couldn't write down or draw, we had to play out, and we had to act out what was going on in our world. So you can see how through vocalizing, storytelling, song, dance, folk dance, traditional dance, how we kept our thread, our history alive. And it's no different. It's no different today. We've got different mediums, but essentially we're not that different from who we were 10,000 years ago. Although we might think we are, our biology and I think our physiology is very much close to that. So all that to say, tying what you asked in terms of surrender, not control, it's so true. I think can't speak for Carla, but I mean, I know when I dance, there's an element of feeling that you're out of control, and then there's an element of understanding the routines and measures, and you get to a point where it's almost like unconscious competence, where you're not at the mercy of what you can do. Now you surrender that part, and now you're into another realm of the engagement of dancing the moves yourself and engaging with a partner to do a dance. And then it's like it for me, it falls away. I rock up at places, and because I've got a musical ear and I can feel rhythm, I don't even have to do the moves as much to make the dance enjoyable. I may do wrong moves, but people will walk off the dance floor and go, "That was nice. That was a strange move, but it was nice," because you surrendered yourself to the dance, and you weren't all about trying to make a particular routine work, or So in other realms, I think sometimes we've got to make our own paths. We've got to forge our own ways in what we do in business, in relationships, in careers. We have to forge a path. Sometimes the path that is before us isn't ours. It's been laid. It's somebody else's path, because if you can see the path. A great quote from one of these little books I've got, and it says, "If you can see the path in front of you, it's not your path, because someone laid it. Your job is to build the path step at a time, and that becomes your path. Based on history, based on learning, you can draw on things that are not yours to create your own path. And I think that's where that surrender comes in terms of being able to surrender to other ideas, and bring it to the professional space. Heck, I mean, you can't all be about control. Even in those professional spaces, people appreciate the nuance and the creativity and the outside the box thinking and the growth mindset much more than you sticking to the rules. Be respectful and don't manipulate. I don't dance with people for some sort of subterfuge. I don't dance to manipulate. I dance to enjoy. So, Carla, thoughts on surrender, not control in dance, with your experience? I mean, you
Thoughts
teach
on
as well,
surrender. Yes, as far as with teaching, I notice if I've tried to control every single step that a child does or the children do, then they're thinking it too much. They're too much in their head, and they're not really enjoying what they're doing, and it'll come across to the audience like that. But when I tell them, okay, this is your solo, take what I've taught you, and then just allow yourself to listen and feel and be free, listen to the music and go with what works. Of course, I still guide them because I'm an artistic director and that's what I do. But when I allow them to also have a larger part in the creation of their solo or their duet or whatever it is, it makes a big difference. That's my take on surrender and control. Allowing them to surrender to what they're feeling, and then me not to have to control every single thing.
And if you want to learn the best way about surrender and control, join the Managers Who Lead Facebook group led by Steve Wright, where he can teach you everything you need to know.
Well, advertising plug there. On that note, this has been great. Lonica, thanks for your message. And I'm sorry, when I bring it up onto the screen, it truncates it. I get 3 dots, and I don't know a way of actually breaking your message down into 2.
What? Just show up live next time and be here in person with us. And
it's in the LinkedIn thread, but I always put it onto the screen so it's on the live recording. But I'll read it I'll read it out. It's because thanks for sharing and always bringing a diverse group together and finding so many points of commonality. And you are right, human nature hasn't changed over hundreds of years of recorded history. So we are all much better off if we accept human nature as it is and work with it instead of against it. Very much echo that sentiment. And yeah, I love this space. It's an invitation and not insisting, and it is a space of surrender and not control when you rock up and open up the airways for a virtual water cooler chat. So Carla, Paul, Mr. Whiskey, enjoy the rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And those watching on the replay and joining us, Colleen and Alonika in particular, thank you so much. Great comments. And I know Colleen's got some dance moves, so she's Caribbean. So, but thank you, and we'll see you again on the next one.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great week, everyone.
Steve.
Great.
Arrivederci.
Thanks,
Bye,
Paul.
Mr. Whiskey.
Thanks,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Whiskey.
Bye,